Everybody, welcome to One Set. What's going on, everybody? How are you? Welcome back to another episode of One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin, and I'm here with my co-host, Jim Green. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, bro. Great to see you again. I know we are coming off fresh from uh, our live recording this
Yes,
past Saturday,
it was a blast.
which we are we are beyond words excited for everyone to see this one. I mean, it doesn't even hold a candle to the first two in-person recordings that we did.
Oh yeah.
Um, we I know for me, uh, as our invested fans or loyal fans rather
hmm
are with this podcast, know how nervous I was for episode one, and
hmm
uh, my brother here always tells me after every two, three, 5 episodes, he's like, "Dude, you're getting so much more comfortable with this,"
hmm
and it's just like. I don't want to beat the dead horse about the Michael Jackson, like, oh, I'm more nervous in the interview right now than I am when I'm on stage in front of thousands of people. But like,
Yeah.
I found my comfort zone dancing and performing in front of hundreds, thousands of people and just chatting and talking. I'm just very socially like in the communication environment. Like, I just know I'm not great. I fumble on my words. Like, I know a lot of other people do, but I just get really uptight about it. It's just an insecurity of mine. But um, man, I think that I really, I am really looking forward to seeing the post production on this last episode that we just filmed. Now, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but if you're tuning in now, wait until the next episode because it's a fun one, and we're already excited for the next couple of in-person episodes. Um,
Yeah, we're already
and
starting to plan them out and kind of, think of different themes for them because I mean we'll be having them planned out probably way before, just like we did this one. So we're having a definitely a fun time making them more worthwhile than just another episode of us just being in a room together. So we're trying to start making them you know mean a lot more and have them more, I guess, like theme based. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
yeah, I think realistically, I just want to say happy birthday, by the way.
I was
Right
just gonna say we
on
are
the stroke of
at
midnight.
midnight. Da, da,
We
da,
got
da, 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 da. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Hallelujah. I'm officially 36, people.
that's right.
July 20th on the dot. Thank you
That's
guys.
it. So this will obviously be dropping, I believe, on the 22nd, or no, this one's episode 31, so it's coming out on the 5th of August.
Yeah, the 5th or
So
6th. Yeah, I believe so. I got the
um,
calendar in front of me. But yeah, it'll be coming
that
out the
5th.
second week. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be coming on there. So you guys will be watching that from there. So we're coming from the past, but you guys are seeing us in the future.
Well, you're watching us from the past at this point,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
One of
But
those.
one of those things, yeah. The time is inevitable, right? Inevitable.
And then
Drink.
like,
We haven't done this in a while. Drink. But we haven't had a good like music topic in a while, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Uh, I just got them watching about a couple weeks ago. I think I'm 2 weeks out, maybe, from watching the latest season of Stranger Things, and I know it's the big thing happening right now. Uh, but being a music guy, and if you guys are if you guys haven't watched the episode yet, we're not really gonna go into anything of the episode of Stranger Things, but I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the whole thing going in between the Metallica's song Master of Puppets and how Eddie was playing the song and the solo and everything, and want to kind of talk a little bit about the whole metal community and how this whole gatekeeping thing is going. And I wanted to kind of bring it into full circle of, like, the fact that um a lot of people with certain bands, like the bands you love, when they have a certain type of genre and the sound that they are being discovered by, and then years later, if they kind of start to switch up their genre and start, experimenting a little bit, sometimes people will be like, "Hey, this isn't what we're used to. What's going on, guys?" But I've always felt that, bands always need to experiment to see their full potential. Hence, that's why sometimes guys start side projects because, you know, if the one band is not uh, being able to fulfill a lot of their creativity, they need something else to do that. So, that's why, side projects are formed, or, little super groups, but inevitably, so this thing with the whole Master of Puppets thing, and from what I've been, you know, gathering information on, is the fact that, you know, within the metal community with Metallica, if anybody Metallica fans out there, feel free to comment on this. Is the fact that we love Metallica so much, and we know, you know, from the days of Kill 'Em All to And Justice for All up until like the Black Album. The Black Album was the album that really took them into stardom and mainstream. And I think they got a lot of flack for that because it wasn't their true, like, thrashy, heavy in your face type of tracks. It was more, for radio friendly, still, metal, but it was more of like, because they had like Nothing Else Matters, where they had more ballads on there, and they weren't known for a lot of the ballads. But, a lot of your favorite tracks were on those albums. So, something in the metal community is that, this whole gatekeeping that everybody keeps on talking about is the fact that, uh, metal fans want their bands to get the most exposure, and to have them continue to go up the radar. But it's like, once they get discovered by, you know people that are not within the community, or people that would not regularly know them, uh they kind of be like, they kind of start getting really, um secure with, like, "Hey, this is our band, and the only way you figured it out was because of Stranger Things." So I think that's the thing that's going on, is that, like, "Oh, well, people, only figured out Metallica. These kids today only know about Metallica because of Stranger Things. They don't know the whole history of Metallica or anything." Uh, so it's interesting, but, just how Metallica was saying it on their Twitter, is the fact that, hey, whether you've known us for 48 hours or 40 years, you're still welcome into this Metallica family. And, just enjoy the ride. You've figured out about Master of Puppets. Now check out another song, and, go down the whole, discography of songs, and see something else you like. There's nothing wrong with figuring out a band later in life, and then figuring out, oh, this band's been here for a while. It was almost like with Goo Goo Dolls. They came out with the 90s. They came out in the 90s, but I didn't know they were really started in the 80s, you know? So it's almost in the same way. People could have been the same way, you know?
With that, I really just feel like music and the entertainment industry actually evolved into what they were doing rather than
Mhm.
they were evolving into the 90s. Like, I feel like what they were doing late 80s, early 90s was like kind of like a segue of like, this is what 90s, you know, what do you call it? Alternative pop. Like, they're not a rock band by any means. I'd say they're closer to alternative and pop,
Yeah,
uh, especially in their later stuff. Obviously, I think that
right.
once they found their niche, they were like, okay, let's hang here, but then let's like maybe take a little step over here and a little step over here.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, yeah, Goo Goo Dolls, man. Iris is my number one all
Yeah, I
time
mean, I think we can
favorite.
kinda say that was their song that kinda really made them break out with, like, Iris and Slide and Black Balloon. I think those are the 3 top, songs that people usually go towards that really broke them out in that era.
Yeah, I mean, I know, um, like Iris was on the City of Angels soundtrack, but like I'd watch the music video and be like, I don't even. It's it's one of those music videos where I was like, I don't care about anything that I'm looking at right now. I'm
Yeah,
just so intrigued by the audio, by like the music itself.
yeah,
Um, and there's not a. I mean, unless if the music video like that song was catered to the soundtrack of the movie, obviously. Like, are there any other songs off the top of your head that you can think of where you're like the music video doesn't make any sense to me, but I love the song on its own?
there's definitely been songs like that. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I do remember, back in the era of, music videos being on TV 24/7, aka what MTV used to be like. You
And the
would see
box.
and the box. Oh, yeah. How many times did you call into that place trying to, get music videos and they would never come on?
Um, it it's one of those things where like I thought if I called 911 from home that like cops would show up and my parents would be like, "Did you really do that?" Which happened once. Sorry. But
But it
I
was the
was
name of the
so
song.
but like because I dialed 911 as a prank once and cop showed up and said someone dialed here and my parents were like no and they're like well how many kids you got? My mom was like four. He's like, yeah, see you later.
Yes. Yeah.
Because my parents knew there was no emergency happening.
Yeah.
Um, but I think after that I was afraid to call in through the box because like there would be extra fees coming through, and I
Yeah.
didn't want like my parents to be like doing the whole thing,
I was just gonna say
right?
there's definitely some coming through. I was the same way though, like because I'll be like, "Oh, I really want to make this phone call to put in this number, but yeah, this costs money, and I don't have money, and my parents pay for me, so this isn't a good ordeal." So, and back then, like those things just come up on your bill, like, "Oh, you spent like." You know, $2-3 on the box for like, and and dad comes on like, what's this box thing? Like, it's music? Like, cut it out,
Kind of
okay?
right. Well, it's also like you know I'd sit there as a kid and be like, all right, I want to hear Weird Al Yankovic's like Amish Paradise again
Mhm.
because we couldn't just jump onto YouTube and open it up because it wasn't even a thing yet. Back in, I think
Right.
I think the box was 97 to 2000, like when we were
Yeah.
fifth grade to seventh or eighth grade, like end of elementary school, going right into middle school, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there were songs I waited to see, or they would do the world premiere on MTV of the music videos, and I'd be like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, here we
Yeah.
go!"
Right? That was the best.
I mean, hot sauce is the best, right?
Hot sauce is best.
Um, that's the. But
Shouts out YMH.
shout out YMH, that's the one. Our boy Annie, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like music videos is so weird how they went from being like that would make them millions on album sales. Like if you dropped a great music video on your first single on the album, people were just running
Yeah.
to the wall or for your entertainment,
Uh-huh.
FYE to get the
FYE,
CDs.
yeah.
It's in it's it's
It's
it's
it's
like
it's
it's it
er.
Bring it back now.
Yeah, what?
Uh, 4 hops this time. Right foot 2 stomps. Left foot 2 stomps. Hands on the knees. Hands on the knees. Yeah, all that stuff. Oh man.
What you know about
Uh,
that?
yeah, what y'all know about that? But the it's just another testament of like everything being digitally available to us. Like this is a time before Amazon shopping was the thing. Um, Black Friday is dead as far as I'm
Hmm.
concerned. People still do it like by tradition, but
Yeah, but it's definitely
yeah,
not as big as what it used to be.
not even close because now it's like, okay, well, it's extended the Monday before Thanksgiving until Cyber Tuesday, the Tuesday after. And it's
Yeah,
like you now have 9 days that you can shop online and still get the deals
right.
versus I wonder how much of a part of that was like the safety issue because of people getting trampled on, uh, killed on Black Friday
Yeah,
because people were out there literally killing for certain gifts for the holidays. It's like, oh my
right. It's
God.
insane.
Yeah. But to be a little bit less morbid, now you can just jump online, you can YouTube anything and hear it, or if you want it and to own it, you just buy it on Apple Music or
Absolutely.
wherever you purchase your stuff. Um,
And we're
what if
just to kind of backtrack with the
I was
music
gonna
videos real
say,
quick.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
I think today music videos don't hold as much weight as they used to. Bands and artists still do the music video thing, but like you said, when it was back in like the MTV eras and the box, where like you had to make a music video in order for your song to get somewhere. Where today it's more, I mean, you can still do good with a good music video, but you know, being in the digital age, we have so many different ways of getting your music out other than just having a good music video. You can just go on your phone and have you perform the song and you do a 10-second TikTok of something with that sound and it can blow up and then you're the next best thing. So
I was
it's definitely different than what it was back then.
I was literally gonna say you can take a music video now and post production, just chop it up
Yep.
and
That's what they do
you
now
can
today. Yeah.
you can post 10, 15 second, 20, 30 second clips online because that's all the attention span is because
Yeah.
like the information overload on the internet is just like, dude, we're getting your attention here
Yep.
or oh, buy my album. Because I mean, legitimately, you and I got into and we're totally knowledgeable about this podcasts that are an hour and a half long. It's
Yeah.
like the shorts attract your audience, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is great. And the podcasts that you and I listen to now, do we get into them because we're like, oh yes, let's listen to 2 to 3 hours of Burke Kreischer just rambling? No,
Yeah.
we got in we got in we got into them because we saw short clips of like why he was funny, and then we were like, okay,
Uh-huh.
let's give this guy a chance to listen to him through. And I'll tell you, um, I can't even remember the last time that I listened to an entire Burkcast podcast
Yeah.
because they're so long. I know the Joe Rogan Experience one is super long, but
Yeah, his are
I mean,
usually like a good 2, 3 hours sometimes,
two,
and
three
and
hours.
I've watched a good 2, 3 hours because I mean, and it really depends if, who's actually with him. Uh, I'll watch the all 2, 3 hours because I wanna know more about, the person. And I love when they kinda do a lot of their backstories if I haven't really known too much about the person, and I'm like, "Alright, well, they're gonna talk a lot about, like, their upbringing and stuff," so it's cool to kinda hear about that, but, like, people like you and me were very, I mean, essentially, we're nobodies. Nobody's gonna wanna listen to us for even, like, an hour, hour and a half, but, you and me, we can talk for hours and, nobody can ever hear it. but we have this little documentary going with our podcast, and we're just lucky to have the people that listen to us every week so far.
Right.
And on the fact that just talking how much music and the facts of attention spans of your listeners these days, it's like, I think the statistic is like when you're, scrolling, it's like if you don't attract if you're not attracted to a video in like 3 seconds, it's a swipe, swipe, and it's like they're always saying like it's the call to action, engaging something within those first 3 seconds to get your person. So it's we're in the era of if you don't attract me in 3 seconds, you're not worth my time. So that's the
Right.
big thing with music is that you have to, and with the chopping of those music videos, you're trying to find the best parts. Then, like, especially with because I'm running some Facebook ads now, but the thing with Facebook ads, you can chop up a good 3-4 portions of that video, run an ad to it, and then see which part of that video is your best running ad, and then you just post that out to more people. So
Right.
it's with and we're going off into another segment of this for a sec, but it's like, you know, I had a I reposted something on TikTok about somebody talking about how, oh, don't uh talk about record labels and saying that they're bad because they're not. And then this other guy was stitching about it saying, well, why don't we stop calling record labels or modern record labels? Because all they really are today are just loans.
They're
And
investors. Yeah.
they're investors. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, they've always kind of been that. But back 20 years ago, a label would invest in you just by because they feel they believe in you, where
Well,
today you will
well,
have to be established already, you
and
know?
their brand name brought you clout.
Right.
Where now people can make it online without a record label, and now the record labels are like, oh God, these people are making it big. Eh,
Yeah, they already expect you to have that initial audience, because they're not gonna put out, the tens and thousands of dollars to, put out your record if they know you don't automatically have a following today, where back then, they would just go, again, talking about the Metallica era, those guys in Metallica and Poison and Guns N' Roses, they were all playing down the strip. Those record labels were going down all the Sunset Strip and just signing all those dudes and, just saying that, hey, we're going to throw some money at them. We're going to let them record an album because we feel these guys need to be heard. Where today, that happens very rarely, where a record label will see somebody and be like, hey, we need to sign them. Where it's more like, okay, well, what are your Facebook followers? What's your engagement like? How many times are you posting? How many times you like how many songs have you already posted and how did they do? They're not gonna risk money as much today as what they were like 20 years ago. But like, because like you just said, because you can for people like me, we can post stuff on the internet and we can put our music out there without a label today very easily. So
right.
yeah.
I mean, um, I never really breathed this into the universe like this, but I felt like I was in the right place at just the wrong time when I started really getting into my dance career. Um, because if it was, if I had basically started breaking in 5 years earlier, I think I would have gone a lot further. And when I was starting to hit my stride was when social media really kicked in.
Hmm.
And I was at the end of my rope where I was like really trying to hit my stride and like make my way into the dance industry. And that's when it was the people that were becoming um, appreciated and recognized
Yeah.
were the ones that had the most followers on Instagram and, uh, you know, the most views on their YouTube content, and I was just
Yeah.
like, what happened to just like I walk into an audition and I'm appreciated
Yeah.
for what I have to offer right here. Instead, it's just like, well, if you have more of a following, that means you can be an ambassador to bring us more
Mhm.
money,
Exactly.
and that's people will say that's an excuse, but that's literally when I started falling off, and that's why I'm just like, okay, and that's to hold myself accountable. That is me not adapting with the change in the industry.
Mhm.
Like to be fair, I'm not blaming everything else around me. I'm just
No,
saying
no.
like I was actively working at what I was raised and taught to be like, if you do this and this and this, but don't forget to adapt. But the whole social media overhaul of the entertainment industry, um, I fell behind, and I think um, there are younger kids that like were more social media savvy, um, and I think it helps that kids in middle school and high school that grow up with social media at their hands, and they have
Yeah.
hundreds of kids surrounding them that they're like, hey, I don't know how to add this caption or
Mhm.
what do they call them? It starts with an A. This is how old I am. it's a, it's it's like if you want people to click on a link at this specific moment, you have to add insert the blank. I don't even remember right now
Like a call
what
to
it's
action or something, or
something like that. But I think YouTube calls it something. It starts with an A. I don't remember, but like I was like, what even is this? And I'll look it up. But
yeah.
at any rate,
And
that's
it's the
how
same thing with
far.
music though, because you're taught to be like, okay, if you're a good singer, if you're a good guitar player, it'll come to you. But now it's like you have to be a good business person. You have to know marketing. You have to know all ends of it. And it's like the TikTok thing too. It's like, well, why do I have to start worrying so much about making content? I just want to make music and put out music. But it's like that's good, but in today's age you have to continue to put out content, or you can make the best song and think it's going to be a top 10 song, but if it falls on deaf ears, that song's never going to be worth anything. So,
Right,
if any inspiring songwriters or artists or dancers out there today, it's one thing, if you're good at your craft, but you got to be a good business person around that too. And I'm starting to and I'm continuing to learn to be a better business person within the music industry, especially with playing the cover gigs, of learning my worth and everything, but just knowing that, especially in today's world of music and everything, that writing music and putting music out there is just half the battle. You have to know how to market that song. You have to know to where your niche audience is. You have to know how to market it the right way, what that audience goes to, and it's you have to go through the whole funnel. Just writing a good song is not just good enough anymore.
right. I think too, very importantly, um, and we have definitely talked about like staying true to yourself, which is going back to like the Metallica, Stranger Things, like
Uh huh.
Metallica trying to broaden their horizons. The bands that you and I have talked about, even off air, about like, hey, which of these bands have actually thrived in moving outside of what they got known for, and how many of them moved so far that the fan base were like, oh, they sold out.
Yeah.
Um, and, and
And I
and
got
to
one
me,
that came to mind, and I'll talk about that really quick. After you get your point out, but a band that just really went like a full 180 is a good example of what we were just talking about. But go ahead, and I'll talk about it after that.
sure, I think in the time where I started entering um, training into the professional world of dance, um, I didn't work so hard for it because I wanted to get famous. I worked so hard because I actually enjoyed where the industry
Yeah.
was at that time.
Mhm.
And and fast forward 10 years, I saw where it was going and I was like, I'm very not like it's not my preference. And I don't know if that was me like, oh, I worked so hard for 10 years at this thing and then the industry moved into this whole different era and I was just like I think I just got to the point where I was like I spent so long trying to get good in all of this stuff and now that it moved and part of
Yeah.
being an artist again is you need to adapt but
Right, right.
that's why I mean you know you name any of the big names that transcend generations they find a way to do it.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's like because they know it's their job and they have to. And maybe for me, I got to a point where I was like, I'm enjoying this a lot less. So that's why I know I've spoken previously about like, do I
Uh-huh.
do something else after all of this? Or do I just continue to do my thing and say, well, my style is not catered to a specific era of dancing. I just
Right.
hear music and I react to it, and it like my reaction constantly changes.
Yeah.
So you look at my work 5 years ago compared to now, it doesn't look the same. I mean,
Mhm.
certain specific movements might be there, but I'm more so approaching like the tone and the energy change, which you and I were just talking about Bill Burr's podcast, where
Mhm.
his vocals change rapidly throughout the episode. So if you're listening driving a car, it's still entertaining rather than he's just chatting like this
Staying at a
and there's
constant, yeah.
yeah and at that point it's like okay I'll just play the radio which like what
Mhm.
is that um is there anything in regards to what we were talking about previously that you want to get into?
I mean, I
I know
think,
we had a couple bands mentioned but
yeah, that was right. I did wanna mention, one band. I know we had a couple that we talked about it off air, but to link to what you were talking about, just now, how, like, there have been bands that, like, did a total 180. This band, if anybody knows them, they're called Bring Me the Horizon. They used to
mm,
be a big, metalcore band, and they've just, within the last couple years, really switched up their sound to more of like a more mainstream rock band. And they're still pretty heavy, but it's nothing like what they used to sound like. And that's a perfect example of the fact that, like, these metalcore bands in this type of genre today, they can only go so far because they're not mainstream. They're kind of in the underground. So trying to break out of that, you have to kind of experiment and do like that, do that album like, okay, maybe this is going to get us to that next level, and see it, because if we don't do it, we're never going to know how far we can go with it. So but you're probably going to have to take a couple hits with your fans, because it's not probably what they're expecting from you. But they got to they your fans got to know that you're not going to grow, and there's only so much that your fans can continue to share you out, but you're not going to reach new audiences, because that's the thing you want to do. You want to continue to reach new audiences, not just continue to reach the same audience year after year, because there's only so many people you can hit in that same audience. So you want to constantly continue to broaden that audience. And there have been some successful bands that are doing it. Bring Me Horizon is doing really great right now with, the way that they've switched up their genre. Another one that we talked about off air, A Day to Remember. They were more of like a pop punk hardcore band, and now they're more punk, but have like more like just a regular pop punk rock sound. They're not as heavy as they used to be, which, it really makes the metal community, ticked off a lot because they're so used to seeing them, with the breakdowns and everything. But, again, those type of bands will not survive if they continue to just cater to that small niche of hardcore fans. They have to continue to break out, and if they want to reach higher audiences and continue to have sustainability as a band, they have to continue to reach out to bigger audiences. So those type of bands, although I mean they're taking a risk with their current fans, but if they gain newer fans and it's going to reach 10,000, 100,000 more new people that never heard of them, yeah, you're damn right that you're going to take that risk, because not that they don't care about the fans, that the OG fans, but you know, when you're a band, you got to think of the overall growth of the band. If you continue to just stay here and just keep making album after album after that, you're eventually just going to fall down. But if you think, okay, here's an album, then we're like, okay, let's experiment. Then you kind of start getting a little bit more of a hype after that. Then you see a trend of like, okay, this sound is kind of working. We're still keeping our old fans happy, but we're making new fans within this new little genre. Then you start kind of tweaking things to kind of keep both sections of people happy. So I just wanted to backtrack off of that, and that was a good example of how bands have been transcending. A couple of bands that I've been keeping track of that have been transcending throughout the years. That you listen to our first couple albums, and then you listen to them now, two totally different bands.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, the phrase that we're really zeroing in on here is professional development, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you said, if you keep doing the same thing, you're not developing,
Hmm.
and if you're going to plateau, people are going to get bored of you, and you're just going to tank, right?
Exactly.
So if you're not taking the steps to develop yourself through time, and I think that that's where, like with me, I had a really good span of time where I was professionally developing myself as a dancer personally. And then once I saw the industry start to change over, I'm like, okay, well, I want to move more into choreography and trying to like really produce, like take concepts and ideas in my head and build visuals on that. So I did that. And I really fell into teaching first, I think, because I started teaching when I was 15. I mean, I started dancing when I was young, but like when I was 7 or 8. But I think by the time I was 11, 12, and 13 years old, the teachers that were positioned in front of me to help raise me as a dancer, I was like, I was more interested in being them because I
Yeah.
loved the impact that I felt that they were bringing on to me. I was like, I think I want to do that, like the teaching. And, I wanted to run my own studio, which we've talked about. So I think the
Right.
choreographing thing came last because I was doing the dancing thing. I was, I opened the studio way younger than I should have, I think I can say at this point. And so I was juggling the both of them. And then once the dancing thing fell through, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I still have the studio thing, but I want to segue into like, I want to be recognized as a choreographer. So it's like, I evolved myself in that realm. And then now I'm at this point. The
Hmm.
running the dance studio thing isn't really a thing. So I'm like, do I jump back into one of these three things where I'm focused on myself personally as a dancer, or do I zero in as being a good teacher, or do I really try to focus on being a stronger choreographer? And it's a balance, right? Because the me being the dancer thing is it's a personal thing. It's a for me thing. But if I can say I invested that into myself, I will feel a lot more comfortable later on saying, okay, well, this is what I learned in my time of professionally developing myself that I can give back,
Yeah.
which would feed into the other two aspects, the teaching and the choreographing. Um, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this too. Like when I had um, like Point Blank, where we danced, we would rehearse, we would that would be my like, okay, I'm doing this is like a for me thing.
Yeah.
And every time that was in a hot spot, I felt so much more positive walking in to teach and choreographing routines because I had a thing I was doing for me. And it's the same with you. I think with music, right? Like
Mhm.
you're not out here building music uh just strictly for other people. You're doing it because like you love it, right? So you
Absolutely.
have you have that balance where you're like, I'm playing music because I love to do it. Um, you're rewriting a lot of your original content. Um, you're playing covers, which
Mhm.
is a for you thing, monetarily speaking, and it's also for the entertainment of other people when you get to go play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if the kids are like, "Can you play this thing from Blues Clues?" Except it's not called Blues Clues anymore. It's
Blues Clues
whatever.
and You.
Yeah, that. That all being said, let's talk about um, the topic that I want to get into, which I want to know because you just turned 36, just a little over 36 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Um, what, and no Google, Wikipedia, don't be looking up stuff and cheating.
Oh man,
Oh, man.
you can make me think.
Yeah, you got a
Do you
master's degree, you got a brain on you. So the number
I think.
36, you, you think the number 36 on you. What do you think when you hear the number 36? It's a quiz just to see where you think the number 36 is going to take you. Or you can say, I know that the number 36 resembles, you know, this person, this era, this thing. Um, and you can say, I actually want to make the number 36 exactly this. And then I want you to conclude with what you want to make the most out of the upcoming year ahead of you.
So when I see of the age 36, you would usually think that growth is like probably the biggest thing because 36, it's a good amount of life. It's a third, essentially almost a third of your life in a way. You're pretty much into a third of your life at that point. So you'd have to probably think, okay, you've seen a good bit at this point. You mean you've hopefully gotten some school out of the way, and got some other higher education, and you've been through jobs, you've been through a lot of different relationships and family situations. You've seen and learned a lot in your life, and depending on where you are in your life, and I guess I'll speak to myself specifically, having a wife and kid. You would have told me when I was in high school, oh well, you're gonna have a wife and kid. I'll be like, okay, cool, yeah, not me. Because I was always that guy in high school to be like, you know, looking at the people with relationships and like, oh, that's cool. I wish I had that. But then, being the third wheel all the time. But then, so when me and Jen first really started going out, I didn't really know what being in a relationship was supposed to be like. I just thought it was like, okay, these two people hang out, they have fun, and they call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. But I didn't know you actually had to work at it. I just thought, well, uh, we're just hanging out with my friends. Why can't it just be this simple? It's something you have to work at. And as life goes, you continue to just know that, uh, being able to grow with, people, and people come in and out of your lives, and you know that the people in your life are the ones that mean the most. And again, when you're in high school, you tend to think, uh, you want all these friends, you want to make sure that you're the most popular and everything. But then when you're in your 30s, depending on where you are, you tend to start figuring out who's actually the ones that stuck by you. Hence, this guy that I'm, talking to right now has been outside of my, wife and my family has been my number one dude in my life, number one. And I love him for it. And again, like we said off air, I wouldn't be doing this podcast with anybody else. I couldn't think of anybody else to really do this podcast with. And what I want to get out of this 36th year out of life is just to continue to be the healthiest I can be, and continue to just learn the things that life is going to teach me, and continue to prosper through these next couple years that take me into this second half of my life. So because we are not guaranteed tomorrow, especially with how life is today. So you gotta, I think we always talk about this on the podcast, like you have to live not always in the moment, but kind of just never take things for granted, because they can be taken away from you like that today, especially. But yeah, as a 36-year-old, uh growth is definitely the highlight point. I would like to say that is something that if you have a good form of growth, if you've been through a lot of situations, and you have a good head on your shoulders, I think you're at a good point in your life at being 36. And I'd like to say that I'm at a good point in my life. I got a healthy kid, I got a wife. I am fortunate to have both my parents still with me. I have a good set of people around me that keep me inspired, and I just hope that I can continue to inspire the people around me as much as they inspire me every day.
And I love you, man. Thank you.
Love you too, brother.
I think the the things I have planned as a surprise were a lot more fun. Um, and maybe we can just save them for the next one. Because I'd rather end the episode on that super positive and uplifting um, message message message
Message.
that you just sent to not just me but everyone tuning in to this, which we thank and love you all for your continued support. Or maybe if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Obviously, our handle is the number one SETPOD. Um, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, Google Music, right hand,
Yeah, Google Podcasts, but yeah, same difference.
Google
Just like
Podcasts.
how we say, like I never knew that Amazon Music, that they had podcasts on there. So they all eventually align with each other anyway. So yeah.
Well, it's like every channel that we grew up with 20 years ago now has a plus channel for streaming. And they're like, oh,
Uh huh.
like like when I heard Paramount Plus was a thing, I was like, I mean, I never really watched Paramount growing up, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'll get the plus. So.
Yeah. No, I totally didn't. But at any rate, thank you everyone for tuning in. Anth, anything that you want to
Yeah.
say before
Yeah.
checking out?
Just,
It
hey,
happens to
thanks
be
for everybody.
your your birthday.
Yes, it is officially my birthday, and glad to kind of officially bring in my 36th year this first hour in a podcast with my best friend. So just want to again reiterate that thank you for everybody that continues to, tune in to the podcast, whether you have watched 2 seconds of this podcast or watched a full episode. We love you guys. And, we are just two dudes that just love our company. And we hope that you guys can continue to join us and, just enjoy the show with us. So, thank you guys. This has been another great episode of One Set. We'll see you guys on the next one.
And for your birthday, cheers.
Cheers, brother. Love you.
Love you too. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
Thank you.